All right. Hello, hello. We are live on YouTube and Twitter. It's been a while since I've done a live with you guys, especially one with a doctor. Some of you know this about me if you've been following me on Instagram, know that I've been going through a lot of health issues this last year. And my priority has been to take care of my health right now. So, with that, I haven't been able to make as much content lately. I haven't been doing as many videos. I've been giving myself breaks from being online, being on screens, and just taking care of my health right now because there's a lot going on in this world, and I've been having some health problems, including going through perimenopause, which hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you with this doctor, this incredible doctor at pharmacist that we have that we're going to interview. And I had frozen shoulder. So if you guys don't know what that is, it means that you can't move your shoulder in any direction and it's frozen. And I've been dealing with that for the last year and a half. And then I also got C19 2 months ago. And as someone who never got the pokey poke, that it just, I don't really think that the poke is effective, but at the same time, the actual virus is not fun. And still having some side effects from getting the virus 2 months ago. And we're going to go into that as well, because I think it's a lot of people are, especially while I was sick, was sick at the same time with this virus. So today I am very grateful to have an incredible pharmacist with me today. His name is Dr. Robert Seik, and he is a pharmacist with the Wellness Company. And the Wellness Company is a sponsor to my channel. I have one sponsor, which is incredible because, if you are on the right leaning and you are on YouTube, we get censored and demonetized all the time. So this sponsor means a lot to me, and it's the Wellness Company. They offer virtual appointments. So if you're looking for a doctor that won't coerce you to get the jab, that is pro medical freedom, that can also write medical exemptions. They offer virtual appointments. They also have incredible supplements to help you detox if you did get the jab. And they also have supplements that help you after you had the Wuhan lab enhanced virus. So this doctor, I'm so happy to have him with me today. I already warned him that I have brain fog and asked if he could take over. So I will be asking him some questions about just what we should do after we've had COVID, what we should do as women who are experiencing perimenopause and menopause. So if that sounds interesting to you, please stay with us on this live, and also make sure you put your questions in the chat because I will bring them up. So welcome to the show, to this live, Dr. Robert. Thank you for being here.
Kali, it's a pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Yes. And can you share a little bit more about just your history as a doctor? What got you started? Like, where are you at right now?
Well, I'm a pharmacist. I tell everyone when I go on these podcasts, I'm a pharmacist in recovery. And what I mean by that is graduating pharmacy school, all of my training in medicine, what medicine is the same allopathic medicine. It's just drugs, a diagnosis and drugs. I did work in a chain drugstore, and I just realized very quickly within 2 weeks, gosh, the older someone is who walks into the pharmacy to pick up their prescription, the more they're picking up these man-made chemicals that have never been in the human body. And this just wasn't how medicine should be. This is certainly not health and wellness. I did move from Pittsburgh, where I went to pharmacy school, to Las Vegas just because the jobs were more plentiful. And I wanted to get a job in industry. This is what I mean by recovery. I did work sales in the pharmaceutical industry for a while. I mean, that was a decent lifestyle. I call it the 5T work week, Tuesday through Thursday, 10 to 2 was your schedule. This is before GPS tracking of what sales reps did. And then I got a job with a biotech company, and they realized, wait, with a PharmD, doctor of pharmacy, we don't use you for sales. I just wanted the sales job. I actually managed clinical trials for 2 different companies over my career, and the focus is primarily infectious disease virology. So I got quite a bit of training there, but I left the industry in 2008. In 2005, 3 years before I left the industry, I bought a little compounding pharmacy, realizing that women who are rejecting the traditional prescribed hormone replacement therapies, so Premarin, pregnant mare urine, okay, that was the primary one for hot flashes and menopause. There was a study done and it was paid for by the manufacturer called Wyeth. It was called the Women's Health Initiative. And it found that women who used the Premarin, and Premarin, especially when combined with the progestin, which is not the natural hormone progesterone, it's a chemical derivative, only approved in the United States and Canada. The rest of the world rejected the progestin molecule. It dramatically increased risk of heart attack, ovarian cancer, stroke, and women went off of hormones by the millions, and they turned to, we call them bioidentical hormones made at compounding pharmacies. That's been a big part of my business. I am the chief of integrated therapeutics at the wellness company because I trained myself with a fellowship. So the FMNM after my name is Fellow in Metabolic and Nutritional Medicine. I had to recover from the industry training and actually learn a lot more about health and wellness and how much you can do just by changing your environment. There's a lot you can do with nutrient-dense foods, getting toxic foods out of the environment, and of course, plenty that you can do with supplements that we all need because our agriculture just needs a revolution as well. And it got me in alignment with the wellness company because of my expertise in virology, infectious disease. I happen to own a pharmacy, and we do a lot with early COVID intervention, and that includes ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, and some other things, those virtual appointments from forward-thinking practitioners that you mentioned. And this is where I am today.
I love that. And just to go a little bit more, I really want to talk about menopause and perimenopause. And if you are a male on this live, this is something that you should be aware of in just dealing with women that are in their 40s and 50s and what they are going through in their body. I've heard it described as almost like a second puberty, the changes that are happening in our body. And I've become aware, I'm 41, and I've become aware that I'm going through some definite changes in my body that are, very hormonal, very, it's hard to explain. And, except that I just don't feel the same. And can you explain a little bit like what women are turning to in order to manage their perimenopause and menopause symptoms?
Well, let's first describe what perimenopause is. So
yes,
a young cycling woman, you naturally have elevated estrogen. Estrogen is up in the first 2 weeks of your cycle. You'll have ovulation, okay? And then estrogen kind of goes away. And if the egg is fertilized, you have a natural rise in progesterone. We have the rise in progesterone anyway because that excess estrogen, that high estrogen, builds a really quick endometrium. The progesterone comes in and says, hey, stop the building. We don't want overgrowth. So an estrogen-dominant woman during her cycle will make too much tissue in the uterus. So we call that endometriosis. Right?
And that I have that as well.
Okay, so that this already gives me a clue. Well, you might be estrogen dominant, and I'll tell you how to test for that.
Yeah.
And then the second 2 weeks of the cycle, progesterone comes in, it quiets estrogen down. Stop making all this stuff. Let me get it differentiated because this is just a mass of cells that don't really do anything right now. Let me differentiate these cells so that we can prepare the endometrium in case there's implantation. And then during a pregnancy, you've got to maintain a high progesterone level. It's often what makes women feel really good. Your skin is glowing. There's positive benefits from progesterone. It makes you sleepy. That's one of the things. Well, we know we're dosing a woman too much on progesterone because she's sleepy, but perimenopause is when that cycle, which should be about every 28 days, either lengthens or shortens. And what happens really starting at age 35 is certain hormones begin to decline. There's a number of reasons for that. Environmental toxins, just the 21st century stressful living lifestyle is one of them. The first thing that happens is DHEA goes down. Now, DHEA doesn't have actually its own receptors. DHEA rises in the morning. We test it as DHEA sulfate. And DHEA is kind of like your Swiss Army knife of hormones. Oh, she needs more estrogen. Let's take it to the estrogen pathway. She needs more testosterone. Right? Let's go that way, right? And when DHEA goes down, the first thing people really notice is, I gained weight a little bit easier and I just don't have as much energy. But really what happens, beginning at age 35 and more so from 35 to 45 is all the sex hormones go down. Estrogen, progesterone, testosterone primarily. They all decrease, but they don't decrease at the same rate. Progesterone will fall 35%. Estradiol might not fall at all, but testosterone falls an even greater amount. Okay? It may fall 75%. And it's a misconception that women don't need testosterone replacement. At any given time in a healthy woman's young life, 25 years old, when she has all of her hormones at the optimum levels, her testosterone level is 10 times what her estrogen level is.
Wow. Huh.
Okay. Now, a man will have 10 times the testosterone of a woman, but what
Yes.
are some of the signs and symptoms of perimenopause? Fatigue, losing bone mass, losing muscle mass, gaining fat mass, and testosterone is a crucial player. The mental fog also is
Hmm.
a player, and some women will actually say they get migraines,
Hmm.
and 80% of women have migraines go away if they're testosterone deficient and have their testosterone replaced.
Okay,
Now,
that's interesting because I've been experiencing all of that. First of all, I've been experiencing migraines, which I've never had before. Since I got my first one around 5 years ago, and now they're more frequent. I would say once every 3 months, which is awfully already one time. One migraine is one too much. Horrible brain fog. I've also just tested my body fat. I did one of those like body fat scanning, and I'm like 7 or 8% above what I was, all through my late 20s, early 30s. And then the brain fog. And with someone like me, I have to do interviews, I run a school, and that has been the most frustrating for me. Like, okay, whatever body fat, I can work out more, I can eat better, right? But the lack of like my cognitive being able to even say sentences that used to come out really easily, it's hard for me to finish them. And so what do you recommend? What's like the first thing a woman should do that's going through these
well, in
symptoms?
perimenopause, we have to first validate it, okay? But
Hmm.
you have to have the right test, because if you just take
Yes.
one blood test, okay,
Yeah.
at one particular day to measure all of your hormone levels, it doesn't give you the best picture of what's going on. There's a company called Genova Diagnostics. They have
Okay.
a kit that is an at-home test kit. You spit in tubes, so you take
Uh-huh.
13 samples over a 28-day period, and this charts for us when the hormones are going up and down. And there's something that occurs first called luteal phase defect, which means in the second 2 weeks of your cycle, when progesterone should be rising, that's the first thing that goes. You don't get that progesterone rise. We call that the luteal phase of the cycle. You don't have the progesterone level rise. It's much more difficult to conceive if that is your goal. So you solve luteal phase defect by dosing progesterone in the second 2 weeks. But what else comes with progesterone deficiency? Skin gets dry, lack of sleep, so you have insomnia. Those are a couple things. You must test the testosterone level. I'll point you to a video if you can find it and put it in the link. A good research colleague that I've worked with, a physician, actually a former breast cancer surgeon, Rebecca Glazer is her name. She runs wellness clinics in Ohio, and she did a lecture. The title is Testosterone Decline and Aging, and it was for
Mm.
both men and women, and it was to the European Menopause and Andropause Society, and it was because of both genders. And what do you typically do? Well, the first thing is I recommend get your hormone level assessed. You're going to find testosterone deficient. Let's start there. If I was a cynical pharmacist giving a presentation to doctors about the benefits of testosterone, or let's just say the signs of testosterone deficiency in women, I could point to 6 different drugs that we could prescribe. We got drugs for your migraines. We got drugs for your depression. We got drugs for your insomnia. We have
Yeah.
all that. We've got drugs for your bone loss. There you go. There's
Yes.
5 prescriptions. We got drugs for your anxiety. There we go. 5 prescription drugs. But you know what? I could resolve all of those symptoms by giving you a healthy, normal level of testosterone and exercising, because what you don't feel is testosterone also deficiency. Testosterone deficiency also leads to insulin resistance, and you become pre-diabetic, and then your insulin level comes up, so you're depositing and storing more fat. Start with testosterone. And I'll give you one more tip since you mentioned migraines.
Yeah.
Over 90% of women, if we work on 2 things, migraines go away.
Hmm.
Most migraines, testosterone deficiency, replace testosterone to a healthy level. Okay, it works. A lot of other women, magnesium deficiency.
Mm.
Magnesium deficiency is horrible. In fact, 90% of Americans are not just deficient in magnesium, they're grossly deficient. This is a study done by Purdue Pharma, who actually manufactured a drug called Magox, magnesium oxide. Magnesium oxide doesn't work that well. And this is only according to the US RDA. The recommended daily allowances are actually pivotal to what the body really needs. I'd recommend a woman like you probably take in 600-700 milligrams of magnesium per day. And the magnesium that concentrates in the brain is a form called threonate. There's different
Hmm.
forms of magnesium.
Hmm.
Magnesium threonate gets into the brain. What does it do? It calms down excitotoxicity, and we get excitotoxins from the blue light screens, fake
Hmm.
light,
Hmm.
EMF exposure. So you need magnesium in the brain, and you develop migraines if your brain is
Mm.
deficient in magnesium. It also improves cognition. It improves
Hmm.
memory, magnesium threonate. So that's a supplement form, and your number one food to get magnesium into your body is organic roasted pumpkin seeds. No other
Oh,
food comes close. Yep, I
okay.
recommend everyone 4 ounces a day, organic
Uh-huh.
roasted pumpkin seeds, have 500 milligrams of magnesium. I just recommended 700 milligrams for you. So there's your
Hmm.
first 500. You don't have to take any capsules, but you still need to supplement. Men, I typically recommend 800 to 1,000, or if they're big guys and exercise a lot, every time they sweat, they're losing magnesium, maybe 1,200 milligrams a day. Combined intake of a quality supplement and things like pumpkin seeds, because the food that is in second place is almonds, and it only has 225 milligrams per 4 ounces. So organic
Hmm.
pumpkin seeds are the way to go. And that's where I'd recommend you start a hormone assessment, a couple of supplements to take care of some of the symptoms you described. And as a pharmacist, I don't prescribe, I make recommendations.
Hmm.
And I make recommendations to people who ask me for a health consult like you, and also make recommendations to physicians who have wanted to train in functional medicine. Say, Robert, I know what you do. They're local in Las Vegas, and I have this case. Can you help me with this case? I give my communications directly to the doctor and say, look, this is what I've seen commonly prescribed. This is what I recommend. Try it, follow up. And 9 times out of 10, we get symptom improvement in people. And I just want everyone, you too, to feel a lot better.
Thank you so much. And if you are new to coming to into the live, I am discussing some of my health issues that I've had that are very common. I have post-COVID right now. I'm experiencing perimenopause, and Dr. Robert is a pharmacist with the Wellness Company, which is one of the few organizations in this country that is speaking against all of the mandated vaccines and all of the and they're pro medical freedom. So it's an honor to be able to share this conversation, to have this conversation with you, Dr. Robert, and to share it with everybody who's watching right now. And if you have a question, go ahead and put it in the chat for Dr. Robert. I want to transition into something that is also that I'm dealing with. And that is I had COVID 2 months ago. I am someone who rarely gets sick. So I have really strong Jamaican blood. My mom raised me without a lot of medications. We did not. When I got sick, I fought it off with my immune system. Growing up, she didn't take me to the doctors for every little cold. And I would say for about 10 years, I did not get sick. 10 years, not even. And I used to have allergies. I was able to heal those on my own by cutting some of the things that I used to eat, like a lot of dairy and all of that. And then 2 years ago, I had a friend who was around someone who got the jab, and they got really sick, both of them. And then that friend gave it to me. And I will say that, and then I had it again 2 months ago, but 2 years ago, it felt very similar to what I had 2 months ago. And 2 years ago, I actually had to take a test because I was a teacher in schools at the time. And if you had even a sniffle, they made you take a test. And of course, it came up as positive. And so I had to stay home from work for 2 weeks at the beginning of the school year. And I lost my sense of taste. That was something that I've never experienced before. I remember sniffing coffee, putting my whole face in like the jar of coffee, and I couldn't smell it. And then it felt like I'm someone who used to do drugs when I was 19, and hard drugs too. I smoked meth for 1 year, which was the worst year of my life, but thank God I got out of that. And it felt like I was coming down off of hard drugs, like a chemical poisoning. Like it was weird, a nauseous, horrible headache, loss of sense of taste. And then after that, I experienced a lot of hair loss. For about 6 months, I was losing a lot of hair. In fact, I haven't cut my hair in 2 years, and it's only getting shorter. So I had hair loss for 6 months, did not feel good after that. And then I actually took the Wellness Company's Spike Support formula, and that was really helping me. And I feel a lot better. I'm taking the Spike Support formula. It has all of these incredible detoxifying ingredients in it, which I think our bodies need to detoxify regularly anyways. We live in such a toxic environment. We're just exposed to microplastics and chemicals in our food all of the time. I even think our organic food has been compromised. We can't even trust that fully unless we go to the farm and see what they're actually using. A lot of our organic food comes from Mexico, and it's not as regulated there as it is here. And then, so I'm feeling better. And then 2 months ago, I received COVID again, and I got infected with COVID again. And now I'm experiencing the hair loss all over again, the brain fog. all over again, and I just don't feel very good. And so what would you recommend for someone, and first, I don't doubt that this is going to stay circulating in our country forever now, this virus that was released and enhanced. And I also don't doubt that they're still doing the work to enhance it even more, and maybe a new version will come out that's even stronger. So what do you recommend for people to just combat this virus without going and getting the, you know what?
Well, I have a few things, so this will cover
Sure.
a lot.
Uh-huh.
And we'll save this one for last. It's the best thing you can do for prevention. All right, but
Yes.
you've already got it, so we can save that for last.
Yes.
And without thorough testing to find out, okay, what's really going on in your body, the first inference that I can make based on what you're experiencing is that you're inflamed. Okay,
Yeah. Okay.
so whether you have gotten one of the jabs or you got COVID, the objective of both is to have your body produce spike protein. And spike protein is incredibly inflammatory. What I tuned into was the fact that you started the supplement Spike Support. Spike Support neutralizes spike protein. It also has some ingredients in it that block spike protein at some of its binding sites, right? So you prevent it from binding and you neutralize it, and you felt better. So there's ways to assess antibodies to spike protein, but you can't get a blood test for are you loaded with spike protein? The body's immune response, that antigen we call a spike protein, that's a foreign invader, a foreign thing, shouldn't be there. We make an immune response to that, making an antibody. You can test for that. You can test for the presence of the spike protein antibody, and you can test for a quantitative antibody. How much antibody do you have? And the more you have, the more you're going to be inflamed. You're going to feel that inflammation wherever the body is sensitive to it. How does it typically manifest? Brain fog and fatigue. So let's shoot at inflammation first. Neutralize the spike protein, and all the ingredients that are in the spike support, like the nattokinase, the dandelion, they either break the spike protein down, that's what nattokinase does, block spike protein binding, dandelion. You can also use ivermectin for prevention for long COVID, because ivermectin is a primary spike protein neutralizer, and ivermectin is found to have far-reaching properties beyond that, namely we're reducing inflammation, because if your body's on fire, you're going to be fatigued. If your brain is on fire, you're not going to be able to think right. So let's put these fires out, and we have to cleanse and get rid of the spike protein. That's the first thing that I think of to get you well, right? Let's shoot at the spike protein. And there's other things you can do too. Dr. McCullough has written some elegant articles that appeared in the Epic Times. And if we want to go on the prescription side, you could use ivermectin, low-dose naltrexone. Those are prescription. Low-dose naltrexone works to shut off inflammation. And then also turmeric, organic turmeric, curcumin. You got to take it with some fats to reduce inflammation. There's a website that I like to refer people to where they have long-haul protocols and vaccine injury protocols. They're very similar. Why? Because spike protein is most likely your main culprit in both regards. And it's flccc.net. That's Dr. Paul Merrick and Pierre Corey. They run this site. They have some really great protocols. I point my local physicians here in Las Vegas, review these, because when I make recommendations, I want you to know that there are organizations out there that have looked at this. And where do we go beyond that? We go to, okay, well, if you have latent virus in you, let's boost your immune system. Zinc, vitamin D are good for that. Vitamin D, vitamin D3, actually shuts off inflammation. We always dose vitamin D with K2. It activates receptors, and it actually, you can use K2 to deplaque where calcium is deposited, like the arteries. That's what you use vitamin K2 for. And there's a number of options, right? And I just tell people, say, look, there are first line and second line options. You do what you can, because all of this stuff starts to add up in two ways. The pill burden that you got to swallow every day, and the cost. You know, it's not free. Different enzymes, we call proteolytic enzymes, that are designed to break down the proteolytic enzymes, to break down the structures that, like the spike protein, nattokinase, bromelain, they have been shown to do so. So all of these things, and all along, we support the immune system. So if you get a blood level taken for vitamin D, vitamin D3, Harvard School of Public Health has published a number of articles on the optimal level of vitamin D. It is between 70 and 90. And I can tell you this, I live in a sunny state, Nevada. The average vitamin D level in Nevada is 33. It's pitiful. You don't get any benefits of vitamin D at 33, hardly any, just preventing rickets, your bones falling apart. At 50, you might get some benefit, but Harvard School of Public Health, in a multitude of studies, says, well, between 70 and 90, we see 50% risk reduction in certain cancers, colon cancer, breast cancer, prostate cancer. We see that's where you have the most immune protective effect. Now, you don't have to take a vitamin D3 with K2 supplement. You can get out in the sun, but you have to expose more than arms and neck. You got to expose your torso. So just think about being outside in a bikini, 10 minutes per side. That's all you need to make plenty of vitamin D. And the actual light from the sun has its own properties. Reason why I mention that is, okay, how do we get your body or anyone who's have the same symptoms like you, how do we get it better? Because one of the problems with the fatigue is your cell's mitochondria are under attack. So mitochondria live in the cells, and they're your body's powerhouses. They produce the energy currency that we use, ATP. When your mitochondria are damaged, they don't have the nutrients they need, they're just shut off, you're going to feel fatigued, and everything gets worse, including your immune response. One of the ways to activate mitochondria is, of course, there's a list of nutrients the mitochondria need, of course. Vitamin C, coenzyme Q10, magnesium, L-carnitine, everybody knows those. You just look up the citric acid cycle or the Krebs cycle, and that's our mitochondrial support. Alpha-lipoic acid, let's go. But you also need to get out in the sun. Red light from the sun. Sun has mostly red light when it's low in the sky. The first 2 and last 2 hours of the day are the best. In my opinion, there's never a time of the day that's bad. But when it's higher in the sky, you have more of the UV light that can maybe cause some sunspots and skin damage. So get out in the morning. Get out in the morning sun.
Yeah.
That red light will penetrate your body 8 centimeters. And what it does to your mitochondria, which actually, if you can imagine a car's alternator, the faster that alternator spins in your car, the more electricity it makes, the more energy it makes. All of the enzymes in the mitochondrial energy cycle have red chromophores on, which means they accept and respond to red light. That's why red light therapy is very popular too. You can go buy that, but the sun is free. You can go buy red light panels. This is why people are doing it. But the sun has a better spectrum of red light, okay? And you also get the ultraviolet light of the sun, which has effect. Ultraviolet light from the sun destroys pathogens as that light is going into your eyeballs. This is where your blood gets exposure to ultraviolet light reflecting off the ground, reflecting off buildings. Just walk outside, right? And that red light causes the enzymes in the mitochondria to spin and turn faster. And when you do that, what are you doing? You're making more energy, overcoming the fatigue. When your body has more energy, it is more apt to heal. So this philosophy that I'm giving you is what's called vitalism. I am a vitalist. If you give the body everything that it needs, beyond just the nutritionals, the best foods, the best supplements, but also the environment that it needs. So let's talk about reducing EMF exposure. Turn your Wi-Fi off at night. Don't put the phone next to your head. Get out in the sun. Walk the ground barefoot. Now we're taking the environmental component into account. And these are some of the things that I'd recommend first. Okay, if you put these into action, I believe you will start to get better. And if you don't, we shoot at something else. If this made you feel remarkably better, well, what happens if we give you a little bit more, say, vitamin C or fish oils, essential fatty acids? Let's get the inflammation down. Let's fuel your mitochondria. And this, for me, are the crux of the recommendations I make. I don't treat, I recommend. These are the recommendations that I make for people with either long-haul COVID or vaccine injury.
Oh, wow. That was a lot, but I got a lot from it. Vitamin D, you needed more of it. I also need more magnesium, and that's for my perimenopause. And then getting it in the early morning. So getting up early, getting out there in the early morning light, which is my favorite anyways, which is, helps to wake you up, puts you in a better mood. And then you had one more. What was the other supplement that you were recommending?
Well, you've got the spike support.
Yes,
you've
spike
already
support.
talked about, and if you need to go prescription because you're a persistent long hauler, I definitely recommend the Ivermectin. And in addition to that, more nattokinase and turmeric.
And speaking of Ivermectin, I just saw this headline. This is pretty recent in August. The Fed admits in court that doctors have the right to prescribe Ivermectin for COVID. So doctors were receiving punishment, I guess, or what was happening for doctors that were trying to prescribe this medicine before now doctors have fought for the right to prescribe it for COVID. But what was it like when this was happening, when, you guys did not have necessarily the right to do this, or did you have the right?
There was a fear campaign. There was a fear campaign to physicians. Now, if you prescribe this, we think it's crazy. We, the FDA, the private for-profit corporation based out of Maryland, we, the FDA, or we, the CDC, another private for-profit corporation based out of Atlanta, Georgia, What do they do the bidding of? They do the bidding of the pharmaceutical industry. I told you, I'm a recovering pharmacist and I'm also a
Yeah.
cynic. Okay.
Yeah.
So they have to control, well, don't use this stuff. And it's so ironic because let's talk about ivermectin. In 2015, 4 men shared the Nobel Prize in Science and Medicine for their work on ivermectin for humans, beyond river blindness, for which it was originally approved, for many other things. So you take this drug that has been used for many years. I mean, it was discovered in the 70s, just like the article that you have on here.
Yeah.
So you have a drug that's at least 50 years old. It's been used in the very young and the very old around the world with no alarming reporting of adverse drug events that are serious. But all of a sudden, you have this fear campaign. Don't write it. We're going to have the AMA, your medical associations, tell you not to do it. Oh, if you're not in private practice and you work for one of the medical corporations because your private practice closed because reimbursements are so pitiful, the doctors will just tell you, say, gosh, Medicare reimbursements are just crushing me. So why stay in private practice? Well, now you work for a corporation where you're seeing patients. You have to adhere to the corporate approved treatment plans. And I've had some physicians tell me they dislike it so much, they're stuck in that job. They're like, I'm nothing but an expensive box checker. We don't have the time to put our hands on patients because the average primary care visit today is 7.6 minutes. We are just looking away from the patient at our screen, typing as they describe their symptoms. It's enough for us to listen to one problem, write 2 drugs, and get out the door. But only the medications that are approved by the corporation. And then one more layer.
Wow.
I live in a state where hydroxychloroquine was banned by the Board of Medicine and the Board of Pharmacy. So FDA, CDC, boards of pharmacy, boards of medicine cannot do so. That is the practice of medicine, because when you mandate a therapy that is practicing medicine, when you deny a therapy, you can't use this. That is also a treatment intervention that is the practice of medicine. And thankfully, there were so many physicians outraged by this. And they went on a campaign, but about censorship. They went on the campaigns and drew attention to the fact that, we can think for ourselves. We want to do what's in the best interest of our patients. We want to have access to ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine. I have an independent pharmacy that never refused dispensing one of these medications, okay? But one of the things is I don't take any insurance. And why is that important? Because if I did dispense ivermectin or hydroxychloroquine to a patient, you came in and say, oh, I see this prescription, but hey, colleague, I'm not going to run it on your prescription insurance, because you know what they're going to do? They're going to audit me, and 6 months later, they're going to take this money back. And they might even take away my insurance credential. I might lose that entire insurance. So let me dispense it to you at cash. Even that, the insurance companies now have the right to come in and audit pharmacy records and say, well, wait a minute, you dispensed this drug for cash to one of our clients that has insurance. Yeah, well, I know you weren't going to reimburse me for that. Oh, no, it doesn't matter. You just violated your contract. Okay, we're going to fine you. We're going to sanction you. We're going to take that insurance away. We call them pharmacy benefit managers, the pharmacy insurances. So here's something I'll try to be quick. You need to know. CVS Drugstore owns a company called Caremark that is the largest PBM in the country, pharmacy benefit manager. Walgreens, through a series of board seats, the executives, well, I'm a board on this company and I'm a mutual shareholder. The Walgreens Boots Alliance has interest in Express Scripts, Optum Rx, which just bought Aetna. So there's the next 2 largest PBMs. Walmart owns Humana. Those 4 PBMs control 80% of all prescription claims. And it got to the point where when I was taking insurance, I would lose money, not just break even, I would lose money on 80% of my claims. And during COVID, 10,000 independent pharmacies in the country is closed, because who can tolerate that?
Wow.
Who can stay in business that way? The same thing is happening in medicine. When I talked about the corporatization of medicine and how many dissatisfied physicians said, I think and operate differently in my own independent practice. Some fight the boards of medicine, some choose not to. But when you work for the corporations, you don't have a choice. So medical freedom, that's what the wellness company is about. That's why we are aligned. And what we talked about, treating the COVID and prevention. We can talk about what the wellness company is recently launching, but I've taken up a lot of airtime. So what do you think about that?
This is such important information, and you are a wealth of knowledge that I am so discouraged with the healthcare system right now. And it does have a lot of issues so when I experienced last year, when I was going through all of, the frozen shoulder, I decided to buy insurance because I'm a small business owner now. And I decided to buy insurance and I used Obamacare. And that was such a mistake. Like they were charging me $400 a month. And then it would take me 2 months to get an appointment. And then when I finally did get an appointment, I had this giant obese doctor come in, lady, with a mask on. And this is Florida. People aren't really wearing masks anymore, not even the doctors. This is this year as well, with a mask on and asking me if I've been vaccinated. And I was just like, oh my gosh, I'm paying all of this money. And I decided to cancel, and now I'm with you guys, the wellness company, because you guys also have a way to replace health insurance. And the insurance companies, I think that we're in just like this giant mess between the insurance companies and the doctors and the pharmaceutical companies, and we are the guinea pigs, and we're suffering. The people that we're supposed to be trusting the healthcare industry to take care of our health, and it's destroying our health. So I just want to ask you a little bit about what TWC.health is offering in terms of a replacement or just a alternative to health insurance, which is what I use now.
Well, the first thing is we're making gains in the right direction to create an alternative healthcare system. A virtual hospital, it's not bad. I still people say, look, you should have some type of catastrophic care.
Yes, exactly. And that's different. I think medicine in terms of like surgery and, just our emergency medicine is incredible in this country. You go to some other countries, you don't have a 911. You're screwed. Like you're basically, the system we have here for emergencies is incredible, but our preventative medicine and when someone gets diagnosed with the disease, that's where we really fall short. So yeah, go ahead, keep going.
Well, there needs to be a revolution because really there's the wellness company has a number of really fantastic nutritional supplements. There's a lot you can do with the nutritional supplements. And yes, we've got spike support. We've got a kids product for the spike coming up, but there's also your general nutrients too that we all need. But right now, our biggest demand on the medical side, because we have a number of really great practitioners, but we're getting overwhelmed with people who want to be prepared. So after hurricane and tornado season, after the disaster in Lahaina, what the wellness company came up with is, when people need acute care, especially if they get an infection, let's say you're at risk for infection, you're a diabetic, that's your primary risk factor, and you get something that is a gastrointestinal infection with some kind of parasite, or you get a pneumonia, you need to be treated. But what if you don't have access to even virtual care? So we have what is called the medical emergency kit. That's a group of antibiotics that people can stock up on and have available. There's a whole guidebook to say this is how you recognize your symptoms. Medical practitioners review to make sure you don't get a drug that you have an allergic reaction to. And then you're guided on how to use those things. But what's launching right now is the COVID preparation kit, because early treatment with hydroxychloroquine, ivermectin, or both is crucial. It's crucial to overcome the virus. It's crucial to stay out of the hospital. And I would make this joke almost to classmates and colleagues of mine and everyone, that I know in that regard. My drug industry colleagues and my pharmacy school classmates just ridiculed me for being an advocate for hydroxychloroquine and ivermectin. And I said, that was 2 years ago. So recently, and some of them still get COVID, many of them are vaccinated, and say, I can't believe I got COVID. I said, well, I want you to look up something called the Hoskins effect or the Hoskins paradox, because the vaccine actually made you more susceptible to getting COVID, and now you're going to get more severe disease. But
yeah, well, that's why we're not hearing about COVID deaths and all the headlines anymore, because the reality is it's mainly vaccinated people.
Exactly right. But I would also tell them this. If you want my help, I can refer you to a wellness company doctor to get a virtual care appointment. But don't call me at 2:00 in the afternoon on a Friday to tell me that you're sick, because I'm not going to get the medications to you in time.
So you should have it before early.
That's right. Yeah. So we have ivermectin, hydroxychloroquine, an antibiotic, and budesonide, the anti-inflammatory steroid that you inhale, and a little handheld nebulizer, all in a kit, so that you don't want to become a COVID long hauler. You want to get over it. There's other things I recommend that go with it. There's all kind of supportive supplements like the zinc, the vitamin C, and acetylcysteine, quercetin helps too. But it's the early treatment that is crucial. So that's why the COVID emergency kit. Yeah, I see you've got your code up there. People can use the code at TWC.health. They can use your discount code for discounts on the kit. So there's prevention strategies we talked about. Get your vitamin D level up, get out in the sun, have a good nutrient level intake, okay? But if you do get sick, you can have the kit on hand for COVID early intervention. Keep yourself out of the hospital. Don't become a long hauler. neutralize it. And I think these are the things that the company's focused on right now, and the demand is pretty high. So those are the top things that are taking up
the demand is high.
time.
The demand is high because the reality is, I think 80% of people now, they've done an antibody test. 80% of us had COVID. I'm sure it's even more than that.
Mm-hmm.
Whenever these viruses hit our country, there really isn't anything you can do to stop it. And it's either you deal with it and get through it in the best way possible, or you just let it destroy you. And I think that that's what's happening right now. And unfortunately, the government is against using a lot of these effective treatments. And that was what scared me the most, was the fact that people that would go to the hospitals, they wouldn't be able to get hydroxychloroquine. People were having to sneak it to them, or ivermectin. And for me, that is like, is there an agenda where the government actually wants these people dead? And it's looking back at it, I'm like, yeah, maybe that's true. I mean, I don't know how else to put it, because I mean, if you look at the campaign they did against ivermectin, it was like shame. It was like, if you even mentioned the word, it was shame. I mean, even mentioning it now on this live, I can get taken down, but I think now it's a little bit less censoring on ivermectin, especially. But I don't know. I don't know what to do, but to just, we have to just keep speaking up, even if we're being censored. And doctors like you are so brave for standing up, and pharmacists like you for standing up and sharing with everyone about this, because this is where we have to get it from, is from people like you. We don't really get it from our government, which is who should be recommending these treatments.
I like the memes where I see people say, Congress, which begins with CON for a reason. Congress should wear patches for all the corporations that lobby and pay them. Lobby to them and pay them, because you have multimillionaires that come out of Congress on $170,000 salary a year, living in a very, very expensive city. How does that happen?
Mm-hmm.
And then if you look at, protecting industry, let's just protect the pharmaceutical and biotech industry. I did my MBA in 2003, and I had a book that I never published, but what the premise was small molecule drugs, the drugs you swallow, because they're tiny molecules, as compared to what we call the immune response modifiers, or other big, huge molecules that you have to inject into the skin, subcutaneous injectables. The small molecule drugs, if you look at the top selling drugs of all time, they would all be off patent. Almost 18 of the top 20 selling drugs of all time went off patent in 2010. Called that the patent cliff. So the pharmaceutical industry, as I put in my books, that the pharmaceutical industry is going to have to replace this revenue, because they have their duty to shareholders, not to the public health, to shareholders, right? So they would replace that revenue by going to the big, large molecule, the biologic drugs, monoclonal antibodies, we refer to as immune response modifiers. So look at the advertisements for Humira, Enbrel, Cosentyx, okay?
Mm-hmm.
And they would also have to turn to vaccine programs. But what I woefully underestimated was how hard that vaccine push would be. Mm-hmm. And it's unreal. I can't believe it. And then people just look up, the Hoskins effect. Vaccines do not give you the immune protection. None of them give you the immune protection that they are supposed to. They actually compromise your immune surveillance for the virus that is going to perpetually mutate. And now what I think is going to happen in medicine, due to what you create with your audience, is awareness. Mm-hmm. If people start to question, become aware, you have an audience that might go and look some things up. They might go look up the Hoskins effect. They might look up more on ivermectin. Go to PubMed.com and just type in ivermectin and cancer, for example, mm-hmm. because I predict this is going to happen, driven by an aware public and aware medical practitioners. We are going to see a number of drugs. We're going to use far fewer drugs moving forward in healthcare 10 years from now. Mm-hmm. And we're going to see a lot of old repurposed drugs that have a lot of applications. So maybe we'll be down to 500 or 1,000 drugs that's in our armamentarium, not 30, 40, 50,000 drugs. We don't need that. One of them could be ivermectin, because some people who took ivermectin as a preventive measure for COVID noticed that their solid tumors, not the blood cancer, but the solid tumors had a response. And if you just go to PubMed.com and look at ivermectin and cancer, you'll find the list of articles. So what is that telling you? Wait a minute. If ivermectin can reduce solid tumors, and you got to use a dose that's higher than the COVID dose. So you have to see a practitioner. You can't just go take this and do it yourself. But you can start to gather those resources, because chemotherapy and cancer, from the time the first anti-neoplastics, chemotherapy drugs were introduced in the 1970s, We've spent billions and billions and billions of dollars on cancer research, but we have only advanced the 5-year survival rate for cancer using traditional treatments a mere 2.5 to 3%.
Mm.
But how much does it cost to go through
Hmm.
a course of cancer treatment? $100,000,
Yeah.
$150,000.
Yes.
What if this horse pill worm drug could have an impact on at least enhancing the
Yeah.
benefit of traditional cancer therapy? Maybe you reduce the dose of the toxic antineoplastics. Maybe it can treat people on its own. So, sometimes when we talk about things like this, and you talked about environmental pollutants, it's really easy to just get depressed because you feel so helpless. I
Yes.
like to arm people with information. These are the things you can do for prevention, because you can only do what you can do.
Hmm.
And you can
Hmm.
recommend that to friends and family. And what you're doing, Kali, is you're spreading the word. And look on the other side of it. There's hope. The wellness company has started forthright to say, we are going to start to change healthcare. And I'm sure the company is going to evolve dramatically over the next several years. It's got to start somewhere. We have to have a beachhead
Yeah.
and people's attention to say, wait a minute, we are in support of effective treatments. We are in
Hmm.
support of things that work, regardless of what the AMA, the FDA, and the CDC says. These are the things we want people to have access to, because that's what is needed. I think we're going to see a lot more of this for many repurposed drugs in the future. And I just want people to be healthier, Kali. I look forward to the day when pharmacies aren't needed at all. And
Hmm.
some people raise their eyebrows when I say, Robert, what are you going to do? I say, listen, I already got my plan. I'm going to transition from pharmacy to farming. I'm still going to
Yeah.
be in it for people's health. I'm just going to
Yeah.
go grow healthy food, because we
Yes.
need that. But for right now, my business is focused on helping people. I'm licensed in 48 states. I'll soon have all 50. And, I have a executive position with the wellness company, because we're so like-minded. We're headed in the same direction to change healthcare.
I love that. And we've touched on my perimenopause. So I'm upping my magnesium. We've touched on my post-COVID. The last one I want to ask you about is stress.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's what's affecting the other two that I'm dealing with right now. Um, this world is so stressful. What I do is very stressful. I've been receiving death threats lately, like legitimate, real death threats, not just people online, but I've been getting phone calls and weird texts. And um, it's, I've been in fear a little more lately, just even walking on the street. Luckily, I live in a really safe area, but when I go and travel, especially to a more left-leaning area, and just the stress of everything that we're seeing online as well. I think that we're seeing a lot of images that are very disturbing, very scary. Our country is in turmoil right now. We don't really have a lot of hope for the future, especially, if we continue to have the people that run this country run it into the ground like they are right now. So what's your top tip for dealing with stress as a pharmacist? Like, what would you recommend?
The first thing is to acknowledge
Hmm.
the tremendous impact of stress, because
Yes.
anything from disrupting your sleep, now your body's recovering or repair,
Hmm.
losing bone mass, poor blood sugar control, terrible cravings, depression,
Hmm.
all of these things, how you interact with your friends and family. This is all affected by stress. You
Yes.
depress your immune system, your immune defense, due to stress, when your body is always running from the lion, so to speak, right? Which is only
Yes.
supposed to be a short thing, right? You run from the lion and get away, where the thing eats you. So it doesn't matter if you're in chronic stress, you're stressed all the. That's 21st century America limit. You're always working, okay? The dollars you make buy less and less. So now you're
Hmm.
stressed out about, can you feed the family? You
Yeah.
have what's going on with you, which is incredibly stressful. So first is you have to acknowledge it, and then you have to empower yourself. Do what you can to mitigate that stress. And there's things you can. I can recommend you adaptogenic mushrooms and herbs, and they work. They have an
Hmm.
impact. But the first thing to do is, I think, in my opinion, you try to shut down and relax as many times as you can. I mean, I read a book and I recommend a book. I don't have time to meditate. It's like a joke. I want you to go meditate. And everybody thinks I'm going to go sit in the rotunda next to my office in my home and do a yoga pose and sit here for 30 minutes and do. I don't have time for that,
Hmm.
but I do have time for 8 minutes of just deep breathing.
Mm.
You start there. You decrease cortisol there. I also recommend people, look, you have to eat meals, right? So before you eat a meal, take 8 to 10 deep breaths. That's all I'm asking. It puts your body in a different state. It lowers stress hormones. It improves digestion. Okay, when I improve digestion, I get more nutrients in the body. So now we've done things. These are non-pharmacologic interventions. Sleep is the next one. Okay, sleep hygiene. After 6:30 p.m., try not to eat. Intermittent fasting works, but usually when we eat after 6:30 p.m., it's carbohydrates and sugars.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're going to have a compromised sleep cycle. So if you
Mm-hmm.
got to have something because you just have a handful of nuts or
Mm-hmm.
something
Like a
fatty,
little scoop
right?
of almond butter.
And
Like
try to avoid screens after 5 p.m. really as much as you can. So I'm going to show you something that
But
I
that's when
do.
we like to watch screens, is in the evening.
Well, okay, so here's something you can do. I do too, right? I'm always reading stuff on my iPad and I'm reading articles late at night, but watch my phone. I do this, something comes up, and now it's red shifted.
Oh,
It's a
okay.
little bit more, so you can look up any
Yeah.
phone you have and how to red shift it. Why? Because blue light toxicity.
Mm.
Blue light toxicity from smart TVs, from any TV, really, LCD TVs, your devices, blue light toxicity has a tremendous impact on how your brain's sleep system works with the neurotransmitters, melatonin, and it also affects the happy neurotransmitter. If you're messing up melatonin, you're messing up serotonin. They're very similar in molecular structure. The enzymes that make your neurotransmitters, they're actually stimulated by the sunlight. You want to be de-stressed? Get out in the sun, like you said, and walk. You want to make sure that you get all the benefits, reduce or eliminate your blue light exposure. And you can buy blue light blocker glasses. There's several brands. Some are cheap, some are expensive. You can put your TV in a low blue light or anti-blue light node. You can put screen covers on, but that hygiene is the first thing. And then one more, you can get a radio frequency controlled switch. I can have a little tiny remote. I have Wi-Fi in the house. I prefer that I didn't, but I don't have the Cat 5 wiring, right? I shut the Wi-Fi off at night. I don't want the Wi-Fi pounding on my brain, my wife and kids. That EMF, electromagnetic field toxicity, depletes your brain of magnesium. Stress depletes your body and brain of magnesium. Coffee depletes your body and brain of magnesium. Caffeine does. So see why I mentioned magnesium? And here's a good way to de-stress. I recommend to all women, because I'll just tell you the men. I don't do this, guys, but recommend it to women. Soak in a bathtub with hot water, 3 cups of Epsom salt, that's magnesium. Put a few drops of lavender. There's a lot of benefits from various essential oils. So lavender is your relaxing essential oil. Sit in the bathtub, deep breathe. Give me 15 to 20 or 30 minutes of that. If you can do it 2 or 3 times a week, there. I've just given you several things that you can do to start to reduce your stress level, put your body in a healthier state with a better immune system.
And so practical and low cost too. And I think that's what the pharmacy industry does not want you to know, is that there are things you can do that are free.
Yeah. And I can tell you too, I recommend typically do all these things first. Don't walk into my pharmacy and say, I need something for stress. Okay, great. I'm going to give you things like ashwagandha, schizandra, and the reishi mushrooms. I'm going to recommend those. But I actually recommend adding those last. Do all of these other things first. They're free. And then when you add, we call them the adaptogens, right? And vitamin C, magnesium are the crucial basic nutrients you need to help manage stress, right? But these adaptogens will help you adapt. But if you don't do the other work first, you're not going to get very much benefit. You do all the other things I recommended, then you take the adaptogens. Wow, big impact. And you'll think those adaptogens are a miracle. No, it's everything that you're doing, putting together all at once that'll help mitigate stress. So I hope that was helpful.
Oh, no, it was helpful. I'm going to take a bath tonight. So I got my vitamin D. I'm up in that. My magnesium. I have like 3 different types of supplements of magnesium. I just don't take it regularly. And that's with supplements, you really need to take them regularly every single day. And then I'm going to do a nice bath. I'm going to turn off my phone. I'm already sick of being on my phone anyways. So turn off my phone and get red lights, therapy.
Or candles.
Yeah, candles.
Sun gazing
a bath
really
with
works.
Candles.
There you go. I mean, how can I be wrong about that?
Yes,
right?
exactly.
And now it appeals to you, and you'll do it, and hopefully your viewers will do it too. Like 2 or 3 nights a week, you do that. I really hope it makes a big difference, and I'm a firm believer that it will.
Well, I hope this was helpful to people that were watching. We've been getting some comments about how smart you are and knowledgeable, and people are very thankful for the knowledge that you're sharing with us today. And I'm thankful for it too. And I'm hoping that maybe we can have in 3 months another conversation. And I'm a lot sharper. You'll be like, "Whoa, what happened to her?" But I'm so thankful that you've been able to share your knowledge with us today. And I just want to reiterate that Dr. Robert Seik is with the Wellness Company. They offer virtual appointments. They have incredible supplements, including the Spike Support Formula, which I'm ordering another bottle today. I actually ran out a month ago, and I've been meaning to reorder it. And now it's getting to a point where I need it. I need this supplement to help me detox. And they also they can do medical exemptions, and they're just an incredible company that is taking over the healthcare, hopefully going to take over the healthcare industry and help to heal it so that we can actually heal as people, because we are suffering right now, including, women that are dealing with perimenopause like myself, and stress. This world is very stressful, and there's a lot of things that you can do to help yourself. So don't stay in that place where you're just stuck, because your body is never stagnant. It's either healing or it's getting worse. You're never going to stay the same. So you have to start taking those steps to heal your body. And I am doing that. And I thank you so much for the knowledge that you've given us today, Dr. Robert Seik. Very practical advice. And thank you to the Wellness Company. And if you want to check them out, just go to twc.health, and they've given me a code Kali for 10% off all their supplements. And again, they also have virtual care. So thank you so much for joining us, Robert.
I so appreciate you having me on. Thanks again, Kali.
All right. God bless you, everyone.
Okay.